afternoon, Board of Education Purchasing Department. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Cloward's out of the office this afternoon. No, sir, he won't be back until rather late. He's at a vendor's demonstration downtown. Yes, I'll make sure he gets the message. Boy, would I love to see that demo Mr. C's at about the video disc. The salesman really made it sound interesting.
Well, it's the Board of Education's intention to try to incorporate the video disc as an aid to various grade levels. From the brochure you gave me, it would seem that the audiovisual aspects of the disc will raise the level of teaching aids quite a lot. It's a very sophisticated device.
Yes, it is, and I, for one, think it's long overdue in the school systems and vocational training schools. As corny as that old saying is, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
And the 30-minute disc can hold up to 5,400 pictures?
Yes, and that's 1,000 words a lot of times. First, you have the real-time speed of 30 frames per second. Then there's the freeze frame, or one-at-a-time picture, plus the advantages of slow motion and rapid search.
I noticed something here. Random access search. Now, what does that mean?
That means that you don't have to go in order, that the device can skip to any frame without having to go through the entire sequence.
Ah, that would save a great deal of time.
Yes, it would and does. In the search mode, you can even program it to search or stop at any predetermined spot in about 2 seconds by using a keypad. That's sort of like a telephone where you call up the numbers that can be read in a little window in the picture that appears in the left-hand corner of the video screen. All you have to do is touch the buttons.
And the disc player does the rest.
Right. There are 2 speeds for fast search, and 2 or 3 seconds isn't very long to wait for something to show up on the screen.
No, it certainly isn't. Now, there are 2 choices in the laser model of disc players. In your opinion, which one would be best for the functions we have in mind?
Yes, there's the consumer player and the industrial player. And there are 2 types of disc involved. The CAV, the constant angular velocity disc, and the CLV, constant linear velocity disc. The CAV is a 30-minute format which allows still frame capabilities representing the 5,400 pictures I mentioned at a 30 frame per second rate in real time. Now, you can think of the 5,400 pictures like a slide projector, if that makes it simpler for you. As I said, you can still frame any of the pictures, run at slow motion, you have slow search, and fast search with 2 fast search speeds. The CLV disc is 1 hour per side of recorded material, but it doesn't have the still frame capability. But it still does have fast search.
Well, the CLV doesn't seem to be as flexible for what we need. But I suppose both systems would have their place in the industrial and consumer markets. So far, it looks like the CAV system would be best for what we're looking for. Too bad it doesn't have the 1 hour length, though. Now let me look at something for a moment. Yes, here it is. The brochure mentioned that the coding was the communication link between the disc and the player. I assume it has something to do with the frame numbers you mentioned that can show up on command in the little windows. Now, could you explain more about that to me?
Yes, you've got the idea. Those numbers are programmed in at the time of mastering or fabricating the disc, and you can, by random access, get to any predetermined single picture. The great advantage to this is that you can stop at a picture which coincides with written instructions or explanatory material, which helps reinforce the learning process.
Let me go over that for a minute. The factory builds in an unseen, unheard signal that can, on command from the keypad, be transmitted as a visual number on the screen.
Right.
Each number from 0 to 5,400 coincides with an individual picture frame, and the source of the frames can be from videotape, motion picture film, or separate slide film. Each picture has its own non-shareable number.
That's exactly it. It's like a very advanced card file, but the electronics in the disc player does the walking.
Now, everybody knows how easy it is to damage a long-playing record, and to me, the video disc looks like it would have the same problem. Now, is there a great difference between the 2 types of records? Their susceptibility to scratches, that sort of thing.
Mr. Cloward, it's almost impossible to damage a video disc. The light beam that takes the place of the playback stylus sees only the information pits engraved by the laser beam. The disc is impervious to fingerprints, scratches, and even slight dents.
You mean both the picture and the access numbers?
Yes.
Now that's something I've been looking for years. A textbook they can't write in or draw pictures on or put magazines in while they pretend to be reading. That's a real selling point, let me tell you.
Oh, yes. The discs are virtually indestructible, and they can last practically forever. There's absolutely no wear on it at all. There's another advantage the video disc has over slide projectors or movie projectors with still frame capability. You can hold the picture as long as you want without having to worry about burning the image. There's no damage at all to the disc.
I'm glad you mentioned that, too. I've seen a lot of film and slides ruined that way. That's another good point to emphasize to the school board. Not having to worry about replacing the information carrier because of careless handling. This gets better all the time.
Now, do any of your courses make their own films or videotape for their own particular needs? For instance, maybe the wood shop or the auto shop might have something to show the students which can be done right in the class.
Well, a lot of classes do that sort of thing, especially the ones where they're making or repairing things. I think some of the home economics classes have done videotapes too. Why do you ask?
Well, those videotapes or films can be transferred to Videodisc with no problem. Then you'd have all the advantages of the Videodisc we've talked about, and none of the disadvantages of film or tape.
That's a great notion. And after the transfer, the videotape could be reused, which is another savings. What about slide film? Can they be transferred?
Yes, but in order to do that, you've got to transfer it first to tape or film, one slide at a time, like making a slide strip for a Duquesne or some other format.
Well, with a freeze frame and random access capabilities, the Videodisc sounds like a good candidate for use in libraries as a research tool.
It's perfect for that sort of thing. The user can pre-program the player by using the keypad, which is really a microprocessor. Then, taking advantage of the various search speeds and the freeze frame, the information appears almost instantly. Again, the microfilm used in libraries is always in danger of being broken or scratched, which makes it necessary to make another copy, which is expensive and time-consuming.
And it also takes the material out of circulation for a while.
Exactly. The video disc for archiving is adaptable to anything the researcher or library might need.
We haven't talked about the sound on video discs. What is there for or against the sound system on the discs?
Well, there just aren't any I can see, with the exception of the sound stopping when you freeze frame, but they're working on a method whereby you can have sound when the picture is stopped. Another great advantage to the video disc is that it is easily interfaced with a computer.
Which means what?
Well, let's suppose you have a lesson or information you want to get statistics on, or compare with other lessons or information. You simply feed the video disc material into the computer in order to obtain whatever results you're looking for.
The longer we talk, the more convinced I am that the video disc is really what this school system needs. We're installing a lot of computers in the next few years, so if we can take advantage of both types of systems, well, I can see education being revolutionized.
Well, Mr. Cloward, properly applied and handled, the use of computers and video discs can really make a difference in the learning ability of students of all ages. My kids are already learning that computers and discs are good for other things besides games and rock and roll music.
Yes, which reminds me, you were talking about the sound on the video discs.
Yes. On video discs, you can get true stereo sound, that is, 2 separate channels, and each channel can be controlled separately. The first thing I think of is the great possibilities to music students. Let's say someone is studying, piano. They can watch the teacher, hear the teacher's voice, and hear the teachers play the lesson or example. After the student thinks he's got the lesson, he can turn off the sound and play by himself.
Or he could play along with the teacher first.
Of course. And imagine how exciting it would be to have the world's great musicians right in your classroom. One channel could have the artist playing a certain composition. The other channel might have the artist explaining the fine points of interpretation and so on. The voice and music could be played simultaneously. Then the music alone.
Now listen, we have an auto body repair course in some of the vocational schools. It would be great to be able to show the students things in slow motion over and over again, along with the technical explanation, and of course, the same thing would apply to repairing engines, that sort of thing.
Sure, and if the student had any questions that weren't covered, he could ask the instructor in the classroom. Then, of course, is the way the video disc can be used for teaching languages. Let's suppose there's a Spanish class using the video disc. One channel can be the English, the other the Spanish. Either or both channels can be used.
Or neither.
Right. I brought that up is because the video disc can serve almost like a substitute teacher or instructor.
How do you mean?
Well, for instance, if you had 2 sections of a class and had only one instructor, you could schedule them at the same hour and physically close to each other. By using the video disc, the instructor can almost be in 2 places at once. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do. Now, that's an intriguing concept. It would take a little organizing and getting used to, but I believe given the shortage of instructors, that it could really be used to great advantage.
And without shortchanging the students too much.
This brings up another point. If the students are going to operate the video disc player themselves, how difficult is it to use?
No more difficult than a stereo system or a video cassette machine. It's really quite simple.
And almost foolproof. By golly, the video disc is really something. It can entertain, educate, serve as a reference library, and teach someone a skill.
From brain surgery to body repair work.
Well, I wouldn't stretch it that far, would you?
Well, very intricate surgery is already on videotape. All you have to do is transfer it to Videodisc.
And with freeze frame, slow motion, random access, it really boggles the mind, doesn't it? You know, I came here sort of expecting a different version of Kitty's TV shows on the ABCs, but I've been shown the light, as they say. I've never been so impressed by a new gadget before, especially one that's directly related to my field.
Would you like to bring some other board members down for a demonstration, Mr. Cloward?
I certainly would. That old Mrs. Jameson is going to get a big surprise. She's got more money than Midas, but she's so cheap. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to get into personalities, but...
Well, you point her out to me, and I'll make sure she gets the royal treatment.
Oh, you can't miss her. She'll be the one wearing the dress from 1940. Oh, I'm being a little unfair, I suppose. She's all right. But she's almost in the spare the rod, spoil the child era. She'll be the toughest one to convince, I imagine.
Let me give you some more brochures to give to the board members. Then they can be a little more prepared.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'll pass them out at the meeting next Tuesday. It doesn't matter what they read, though. It'll be nothing compared to what they'll see down here.
I'm very pleased you've been so impressed with the video disc, Mr. Cloward. It's a piece of technology that's just now coming into its own. And when your school system gets the disc, it will be the first one in the state so equipped.
Say, you sound like you've already installed them.
I'd say that from the look of your face, Mr. Cloward, we already have.
You're right. But you've also got to get that same look on old Mrs. Jameson's face. Good luck.